Yo, what's up YouTube? So boys and girls, today we're going to be doing the Season 11 Kayn guide, long and awaited, before the season even starts. I want you guys all to be ahead of the learning curve, be going over all the abilities and what they do. So we're going to be going over the passive. See, for Kayn, he has a passive called the Darkened Scythe. For your first form, it doesn't actually do anything. What it actually does is gives you orbs based on which form you want to go. There's a red and a blue form. So if you hit melee champs, you get red orbs. If you hit ranged champs, you get blue orbs. When you get your form, red or blue, they give specific passives. And red, you heal for a percentage of spell damage dealt to champions. So it's a lot of healing. And Shadow Assassin, for the first 3 seconds of combat, you're going to be doing bonus magic damage. So it's mixed damage. So pretty much the gist of it is, if you want to play red, you're looking more for lower mobility, but higher sustain and stronger team fight. If you're playing Shadow Assassin, you're looking for more fast-paced, high mobility gameplay and lots of damage. The reason why I say high mobility is because your E on Shadow Assassin is going to be a lower CD time by a lot, and you're going to be able to use your W while you're not standing still. For red, sadly, you're going to have to stand still to use your W, but it is a knock-up, and it heals you a lot. Okay, so next thing we have is your Q, the Kayn dash forward. He does a dash and a strike. It's 2 forms of damage. I can show you on this dummy right fast. So you got 1, 2 forms of damage. It is very strong. Typically for your first form, you're gonna be putting 3 in Q. If you're gonna go blue Kayn, you're gonna max your W second. If you're going red, you're gonna max your Q all the way. Second is your W, Blade's Reach. It's different for if you have your Rost or your Shadow Assassin form. If you have your Rost form, it is a knockup. If you're your Shadow Assassin form, you gain extra range and you can move while you're using this. Now, your third is your Shadow Step. This one confused a lot of people. So you walk through walls. You're able to use it without walking through a wall, but it goes out fast. So a lot of people are wondering, why does it run out, Karasmai? Well, if you take damage or you're dealing damage in the past 1.5 seconds, you're not allowed to stay in the walls. So you can go in, get a heal, but it's going to kick you out really fast. And if you're not entering a wall at all, it's going to run out, but you can still use it for a little bit. And the fun fact about this is when you turn Shadow Assassin, you actually get slow immunity. So you're not allowed to be slowed by anything. And then lastly is your alt Umbral Trespass. Once again, it is different for both Shadow Assassin and Rost. For Shadow Assassin, you gain extra range upon exiting. And for Rost, you deal max % health damage. So this is really good against tanks. And it is also a very good ulti for repositioning. As you can see, I can exit from any area. Sometimes it's smart to be able to reposition or just wait in there. Now, let it be known that the longer you wait doesn't actually do anything. Like, it's not going to give you a larger heal for Ross. It's not going to give you more damage. It's more or less just to wait out your CD. So, a lot of you are probably wondering when to pick which form, red form or blue form, or like how to even know to pick which one. Well, basically, if they have 3 or more melee champs, then you want to go red. If they have 3 or more ranged champs, you want to go blue. So the squishies, which I call the ranged champs, you'll be able to one-shot easily with blue. You'll be able to move fast on them. See, that's the whole thing about blue Kayn. It's if you're looking for high mobility and lots of damage. This is why people love blue Kayn, including myself. But Rost, it is the main attraction of Kayn, the team fight warlord, the 1v9 machine himself. He does just extremely well in the most comps. That's why most people say if you don't know what form to go, just go Ross. And honestly, that's not a bad thing to. That's not bad advice, honestly, because you can go Ross pretty much every game. Okay, so now I'm gonna be teaching you guys a little Kayn mechanic. Kayn isn't typically a mechanical champion. It's pretty straightforward. You have your W. It's a skill shot, so you do need to hit that. And the combos, you can cancel your animation with your auto if you auto Q really fast. Sometimes I like to do that. The only main mechanic I would say you would need is being able to Q properly in a wall. So notice, if I Q in a wall and auto, I can get 2 autos off fast as opposed to getting a full Q, because look at how long that takes. But if I can auto Q auto, it's a lot faster. So that's pretty much the main Kayn mechanic. Works for both forms. You can usually follow it up with like a W and just R. Wait out your CDs, go in. You usually want to use your R to wait out your CDs. Okay guys, now I'm going to be showing you how to full clear efficiently on Kayn. See, for Ross, I typically like to do a full clear For Shadow Assassin, I'll do a Wolf Start. I'll show you what that looks like as well. But this is just the clear for Ross, and I'll show you how to do it. See, ideally, when you're killing camps, for Ross, I'd like to get a leash most times. So the red, you would get a leash, but I'll just show you that you could do this very fast, even without one, and very healthy. So you pretty much want to start your red, and make sure that you're constantly using your Q and walls. It'll speed you up a lot. I can wait for this to get low HP, and then I just keep queuing into walls. It makes it go a lot faster, and as you can see, they all are. You want to make sure that they're all low HP because they'll all burn out, and then you get to queue them all like that. Make sure you don't miss a single one. Now notice I hold on to my E. I like to get my E second so I can go over the wall, and it saves me a lot of time. I hold my E. I don't use it on this camp. I'm going to use it to get through to the tower to the other camp. Okay. So you want to do that. And then you get to your wolves. You want to W immediately. Make sure that you actually get into the pit. Sometimes you might go over there if you're not safe enough. You want to queue this twice in the wall. Then you can drag it over to your blue. A lot of doing this clear is farming multiple camps at the same time. Especially when you're later on in the game. You can do it very easily. But a lot of kiting. Kiting helps out a lot. So this is pretty much how you would want to full clear as Kayn. This is my every game pathing for Ross. Auto this. That way I can do that. Both with Q. And now I just spike romp. Q it in the wall again. And this should be 315 clear. Alright, so now I'm going to show you the Shadow Assassin pathing. Typically I like to start wolves. Notice the timer starts at 5 minutes because I had to keep resetting the game. I just didn't want to. But typically, by the time you're done with this path, you'll be at about 240, and you can either look for a bot gank or a top gank if you're starting on that side. Or you can reset and get your tier and be ready to go to the opposite side scuttle. So I'll kind of walk you through that. So pretty much you want to get your Q, kite your wolf out to the middle of the mid lane, and then E over the wall to get the raptors. Make sure you queue every single raptor. You can auto the big one only, and because the little ones will die to 2 Qs. Make sure you get the red in this wall, and then you can stay on top of it. Now this is what I like to do with the red. I get enough autos. I EQ because you can queue in your E, and that actually helps you get more movement speed. And then you could just move on to the next camp. So then you're at your Krugs. Keep queuing into walls. Like that. Now I'm going to just auto these guys down because I want to kill them all with one swift Q. So now typically at this point, it's about 240. If you're doing this fast, it's about 240. You have a time and a chance to look for a bot gank, or you can reset, go to the top side scuttle. You'll be there, rise it spawns, and you can get your blue gromp and farm all your camps down again. You'll be level 5 at 5 minutes with this clear. That is why it is so good. You don't need a leash, and it's very fast and efficient. Okay guys, now I'm going to be going over the Kayn runes. Now specifically for boss or Shadow Assassin, you want to make sure that your runes are set up. Like I said, the way you'll know which runes to go. If they have 3 melees or more, you're going to go red. If they have 3 range or more, you're going to go blue. So I chose my blue runes right here. You have Dark Harvest, you have Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, Relentless Hunter, Futures Market, Magical Footwear, Double Adaptive with Armor. Now the reason why I chose this exact rune set, Dark Harvest, is very good because you can get a lot of stacks early on. You're meant to be fighting early on to get your form, so it just makes sense, and it benefits a lot more than Electrocute because you'll be able to proc it multiple times in a fight. Sudden Impact helps you get some armor pen, lethality, so it helps you burst a lot more. Eyeball is easy to collect. Like I said, you're going to be fighting a lot early to get your form, and it gives you a lot of damage. Relentless Hunter is to kind of capitalize on your high movement speed. You're already a high mobility moving champion, you know, if you're playing Blue Kayn, that is. So you might as well just be as fast as you can because you're going to be murdering people like nothing. And then Futures Market. A lot of people are iffy about Futures Market, but especially in this Season 11 meta, mythic items are very important to rush. So if you can buy an early component, such as a Serrated Dirk first reset, sometimes if you get a kill after your Wolf Clear, you'll be able to buy a Serrated Dirk. But first buy, and it is insanely huge, and it can definitely change the game. So Futures Market is, in my opinion, a very strong rune if you know what you're doing. And then Magical Footwear, the more kills you get, the lower CD it gets, and you can snowball. Like I said, Kayn will be fighting a lot, guys. So this is why I think these runes are the best for Blue Kayn. Specifically for Blue Kayn, you want to be very aggressive because as soon as you get your form, you're snowballing. Okay, everyone, so now I'm going to be telling you about Ross's runes. First off, you're going to want Conqueror. You're going to want to get Triumph, Tenacity, and Last Stand. And for your secondary, you're going to be running Domination, Sudden Impact, and Ravenous Hunter. You're going to want Double Adaptive and Armor. You can take MR in your runes if you're against an AP jungler and an AP mid laner. If they have both those on the enemy team, you can take MR and it'll help you out a lot. Now the reason why you go Conquer on Ross is going to be in a very long team fight. He's meant for sustain, so he's going to be more tanky than the average Kayn. Shadow Assassin is very squishy. Ross is very tanky. He's very good at fighting, so the longer you're in a fight with Conquer, the better it is, and it works really well on him. Triumph, a lot of people are questioning it. Why not Presence of Mind? Presence of Mind is a lot weaker in Season 11, so I don't tend to run it anymore. Plus, I run Mana Immune on Ross now, so mana is no issue. Plus, Triumph, the healing is just amazing. It makes Ross even more tanky and harder to kill. Next up, you have Tenacity. Tenacity is a must-need on Ross. I see a lot of people run Alacrity. I do not like to run Alacrity because if you're lacking that Tenacity, you won't always be able to get your ult off, and your ult can definitely change an entire fight. Especially if you're low HP, you're going to need to get your ult off. Next up, you're going to have Last Stand. Last Stand, it'll be doing a lot of damage. Typically, when you're playing Ross, you're in the middle of a team fight, so you're going to be low HP, healing up to full, and the stats work a lot better for Last Stand as opposed to Coup de Grace. Coup de Grace is good if you're playing more of an assassin, more of a high damage threat. Ross is going to be definitely just a team fight carry, so Last Stand will always be best on those type of champions. Then you have Sudden Impact. A lot of people wonder why I go Sudden Impact over something like Eyeball or maybe Zombie Ward. I mean, sometimes I swap it up, but I think Sudden Impact is just the most consistent for me. That nice little bit of lethality per your Q engage. It's on a 4-second cooldown, but still it's very nice. And next up, you're going to have Ravenous Hunter. Ravenous Hunter works out perfectly because it capitalizes on healing. Every stack you get will give you more and more healing, and kind of similar to how Blue Kayn capitalizes on movement speed. He's a very good movement-based champion. Ravenous Hunter capitalizes on sustain, so that's why I get that. Alright guys, now we're going to be going over the Kayn items. I'm going to be showing you red first. So typically my favorite start on red. I'm going to rush a tier. Obviously I get Smite. Smite, it kind of depends on their team. If I am against a lot of mobility and a lot of kite, which means they, 80 carries that can kind of move and attack me at the same time, I'm going to always go blue Smite. If they do not have those though, you can definitely go red Smite on Ross. So don't be discouraged from using that. But typically I would say I'm going to start blue Smite. Blue Smite with refillable pot. And then per my first reset, I look to get a tier. Then I'm going to look to rush Iron Spike Whip. Typically is the most important component of the Gore Drinker for Ross. You're going to want to get the Gore Drinker finished up. Usually I get plated Steel Caps because it reduces incoming damage from attacks by 12%. That is a lot. Now, a lot of people wonder why do I not get Merc Treads into AP heavy comps. You don't typically get boots based off the stats. You get it based off of the passive it has. So this is for Tenacity, which I have Tenacity in my runes. So there's no real point to get it. So most of the time I get plated Steel Caps. There's some rare occasions. If they have like 4 or 5 AP champs, I'll get Merc Treads. Just to capitalize because 51%, I believe, is the maximum Tenacity. So if I want that fully stacked, I'll do that. Now, next item I get is that. So once I'm done with my boots and my Gore Drinker, I will look to get Mana Immune. Usually at this point, it is about 300 stacks, and it is going to be benefiting you a lot. After that, I look to rush Cleaver. Now, if they're 80 heavy, I'm going to look to get Ravenous Hunter. If they're more AP heavy, I'm going to get Spirit Visage. So most comps would ask for Spirit Visage over Ravenous Hunter. Last item is kind of a flex pick. You can either go GA, you can go Sterix. So GA would work well if you're in a team fight and your team is doing well. If your team's pretty much even with you, equal in gold, Guardian Angel is amazing. If they have a lot of healing on their team, Chempuk Chainsword does amazing. And let's say no one else on your team bought it. I don't like Thornmail. I much prefer the Chainsword because the enemy teams cannot auto you when you're inside them in your ult. So that's why I prefer Chainsword over Thornmail. Ravenous Hunter is if you're very ahead and you want as most damage you can get. So a lot of people used to buy Death's Dance last patch. Now you buy Ravenous Hydra. I don't think Death's Dance is good anymore. And the last and final item that you can kind of get, Silvermere Dawn works out a lot of times. Silvermere Dawn, if you're into like a Malzahar or a Morty and you want to make sure that you can have impact in the fight, or want to make sure that you get your abilities off, I would get Silvermere Dawn. It is pretty much like QSS now. So these are the items for Ross. Okay guys, so now I'm going to be telling you the best build for Blue Kayn. I love to start Blue Smite. It works out amazingly. Typically, I would never go Red Smite. I think I've gone it once or twice in my entire life as Blue Kayn. The reason behind this is because Blue Kayn is nowhere near as tanky as Ross. So you'll be in a lot of sticky situations where sometimes a Blue Smite and ult someone, because you can ult off Blue Smite. So sometimes doing that is a perfect safety net for you. So Blue Smite to start the game with a refillable pot and a trinket. Next thing up, you're going to want to get tier on your first reset. Then you're going to want to rush your first mythic item, which will be Eclipse. Some Kayn mains are rushing Dusk. If I do change that, I'll be the first to let you guys know. So I would rush my Eclipse item. Sometimes, I'll tell you this as well, if your first reset, you can bias rated Dirk, I'll do that over tier and then I'll get tier after that. So if you rush a Dirk over tier, don't feel bad about it. I do it too. Next up, we're going to be getting the Ionian boots. Now, a lot of people are curious about why Ionian boots. There's plenty of boots to go. Sometimes I get Sork boots as well. As I mentioned, Blue Kayn's passive does bonus magic damage. It's not actually a flat AP rate. It's just AP damage on top of the 80 damage. So you can only do as much AP damage as you do 80 damage, but it amplifies it. So you can go Sork boots if you want more damage. I think he has plenty of damage, so I like the ability of haste boots, just because they make you able to use your E's and your Q's more often. Remember, you can use your Q in your E for more movement speed. Overall, it just helps out a lot, especially with your infinite mana from getting Mana Immune, which brings me to my next item. I'm going to complete the Mana Immune. Now, after this, it is usually I like to get Yumu's. I'm a big fan of Yumu's. Now, if I'm playing in any elo above Diamond 2, it's going to be Umbral. Umbral is an extremely strong item in Diamond 2+. A lot of wards are going to be placed down by the supports in this rankings. So if you're below Diamond 2, I would say stick with Yumu's. If you're above Diamond 2, go to Umbral. Next item, it really depends on their team. If they have a lot of CC, I would say Edge of Night. If they have a lot of shields, I would say Serpent's Fang. And if they have a lot of healing, I would say get an Executioner and then get another item. Now, one of my favorite items against tankier comps is actually Black Cleaver. Now, the reason a lot of people don't know this, the reason why I like Black Cleaver is because it gives you 25 ability haste, 300 HP, and 40 AD, alongside with the passive that lets you reduce their armor by a total of 24%, which is a lot. Now, the reason why this works out so well on Blue Kayn, you know, it's kind of a bruiser item. Why does it work out on Blue Kayn? Well, with your mythic item, you get mythic passive bonuses. So this gives me all these items finished, give me 16% armor penetration. Now, having all this armor penetration alongside with a lot of mana, alongside with a lot of ability haste, I'm able to get more abilities off. So typically, you're going to look at about 41% CDR or 70 ability haste, which means you're capable of spamming your abilities as much you want. You have all the mana in the world too, so it's a very fast-paced, very high-tempo build, and this is exactly why I love doing it. So you guys can test it out. I like to call it Irv Kayn because it's kind of like you're playing Irv. Either way, that's going to be it for the build on Blue Kayn. Last thing to mention though, I do get the Blue Orb at level 9, and on Ross, I do like to get the Sweeper towards around level 7. Okay guys, I'm going to tell you what champion to ban. Now, if you are a new to Kayn, you're going to be a little bit curious. If you are a Kayn player, the answer is going to come simple and easy. Graves. Why Graves? The question that has been asked to me more than any other question this past year. Why is Graves the most OP champion for Kayn to ban? Well, let's just go over Graves' kit. He has his Q, which is a lot of damage. It kind of bangs off a wall. I forget what it's called. He has his W, which is a smoke screen. Put it on the ground, and you're pretty much unable to see anyone, which makes it very hard to use your ult. Makes it very hard to land a W. And he has his E, which is on a very low CD time, because he can lower his E CD time by auto-attacking. And his E gives him a lot of armor, alongside with his ult, which makes him able to bounce back. So he has two abilities that make it easy to dodge your one ability, your W. And he has his W, which makes it hard to even see anything. So Graves is an all-around counter to every AD melee jungler. Every single one. He beats them out easy. He has a stronger early game. He farms faster. He itemizes pretty much perfectly to counter Kayn with usually with a shield item, Tabby, and like I said, he gets armor off his E, and he's an 80 carry, so he's very hard to get on top of. You play Blue Kayn, you think you can one-shot him? No. You play Ross, you think you can hit him with the W? No. So, boys, pretty much you always want to ban Graves. If you're not banning Graves and they pick Graves, you're in for a long, excruciating loss. Now let's get carried. Okay, guys, I'm going to tell you some of the most important Kayn tips that I do not like to share with a lot of people. You know, this is the type of stuff that helps me get a lot of LP. Well, step number one, I'm going to tell you guys how to get a lot of your orbs to start the game. A lot of people don't have a good way of getting their orbs. The simple way is knowing how to path. Knowing how to path is everything crucial. So every camp is 4 CS, and if you keep track of the pathing of you and the enemy jungler, and you time each camp is 2 minutes, the buffs are 5 minutes. So if you can tell where the enemy jung started, the easy giveaway is if bot or top is late to lane, that probably means they leash. So if bot's late to lane, that means the enemy jung starts blue. And then you just keep track of the number in your head of the timers and everything. So if you finish your first camp in about 10 seconds, they probably finish their camp in 10 seconds. And then vice versa for this camp, and then the next one and the next one. So what does this exactly do for you, tracking camps? Well, you're going to know where they're going to gank, and you got to know whether you should be there to counter it, or whether you should be there to gank on the opposite side of the map. Most of the time, Kayn, because he has no passive to start the game, should not be counter ganking. Now, there is a few exceptions that we can get into, you know, specifically off the top of my head, just champions that normally wouldn't gank, like let's say Shyvana, Evelynn, Zac, champions that are very weak at ganking. You can easily counter gank them, but they're not the type to gank. They're the type to AFK farm. And the type to AFK farm, you can tend to usually invade. Now, a lot of people, they don't know this, but you can actually just start the enemy's Raptors, and then if they're doing red, you can smite their red away easy. Or, if they're starting blue, you can just do red, or do Raptors red, and go to your bot side and gank mid. Easy. But basically, boys, the best thing to do as Kayn is knowing how to path. I have plenty of pathing guides. Okay, guys, I'm going to run you through the early game of Kayn. The early game of Kayn. Funnily enough, a lot of the viewers I've watched and I've seen have a very good early with Kayn. That is the hardest part of Kayn. The hardest part of Kayn is getting your form. Karasmai, how do I get my form? The secret to getting your form is ganking. Now, sometimes you're going to have to fail ganks. Sometimes you're going to have to get outplayed. Kayn is a champion very likely to get outplayed, very likely to fail a gank, very likely to die. This is why you practice. You practice your limitations. Sometimes the gank won't work. But now the most important thing I can tell you, to follow this 3-set rule. Farm, form, objectives. We're going to call it FFO for short. Now, the number one thing, farm. Farm. This is your crucial, most important thing on Kayn. You can outfarm nearly every jungler in the game. If you just focus on farming and you can do it fast, I suggest every single one of you go practice your pathing, practice your full clear, practice the wolf start in practice tool. Make sure you can get it down to the proper time. Now, if you can farm and you can get a huge lead from this, typically you can get a 2-level lead on the enemy jungler just from farming alone. Once you're level 6, you can look to force ganks, whether it's under tower, whether the enemies are overextended. After you farm a lot, that's when you get your form. Now, like I said, farm, form, objectives. So, if you lose the dragon early on, lose the rift early on, it's fine. Because, like I said, once you get your form, there's nothing to worry about. Farm, form, objectives. So, you farmed a lot. Okay, let's say you farmed a lot. Now, how do I get my form? Well, you just go to a lane and you force a gank. You're going to have a nice item advantage. Make sure that you reset before you look for the gank, because you're going to use that farm to buy a nice juicy item. Like the items I talked about earlier, you're going to buy a nice juicy item, and then you're going to go force a gank. You're going to keep forcing ganks until you have your form. Now, once you have your form, you have the farm, you have the form. Make sure you're still farming a lot up until getting your form. So, make sure you clear all your camps, look for a gank. Clear all your camps, look for a gank. Clear all your camps, look for a gank. Farm, form, objective. So, you have your farm, you have your form. Now, what do? You force fights, you force picks at the objectives. Dragon's up, go fight the dragon. Rift's up, go fight the rift. Dragon again, dragon. Rift, and then what do you do with Rift? You can send it top, you can send it mid. You can look to force the dive on that too. Kayn has one of the best tower dives in the game, because all you have to do, you have to dive them, damage them, and then you can reset the tower aggro. I'll actually show you that right now. So all you have to do, you can auto them, Get them as low as you want. And then whenever the tower's about to kill you, you ult and escape. Easiest thing you can do. Alright, now to explain the mid game to you. So, you have farm form objectives. You got yourself a lead. It's the mid game. What do? Simple. You just keep getting objectives. You keep getting dragons. You keep getting rifts. You keep getting picks. At this point, you should have a pretty nice advantage. You should be able to force a lot of early fights, a lot of things that the enemies are not prepared for. See, now Kayn is the snowball champion. He's the snowball master. This is ideally what we want to look for. Late game, you never want to make it to a late game as Kayn. Late game is very scary because this is where the carries start to scale. Kayn, believe it or not, is not a carry. He's more of a mid-game demon. That's what I'll call him. His team fighting is very strong in the mid-game, and his picks are very strong, and his mobility mid-game for Ross and Shadow Assassin. But when it comes to late game, that's when they have the items that counter you. You know, they have the Zanyas, they have the Tabbies, they have the shields, they have the supports. So if you're in the late game, the best thing you could do as a Ross, you look to peel with your W, and as a Shadow Assassin, you want to look to one-shot the carry at all costs. Try and catch them off guard. This is where Umbral usually comes in handy because you can clear the wards and come from a hidden area and just try and flash WQ. See, I always save my flash for the late game, Blue Kayn, so I can just try and flash in combo and make it out safely, hopefully. Okay, guys, so that's going to be it for the guide. If you enjoyed everything, be sure to check out my mobile fire guide as well. If you have any further questions, it covers specific jungle matchups, covers up updated builds and runes. I'm going to be updating them throughout the entire season. If you guys have anything you need to know, just check the description down below. I'll be leaving it there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.